Hello, I'm Cheryl McCarthy. Welcome to One to One. Anyone walking the streets of New York City these days will see a streetscape that looks dramatically different than it did 3 years ago. Entire blocks of abandoned storefronts bear for rent signs, and the city's lost businesses range from huge department stores and fancy restaurants to small retail shops and tiny eateries. Virtually all businesses in the city were hurt in some way by the pandemic, but none were affected more than minority-owned businesses. Why do minority-owned businesses struggle to survive and grow more than white-owned businesses, and why does it matter? Today's guest will answer these questions and tell us what CUNY is doing to reverse this trend with women and disabled veteran business owners as well. They are Hector Batista, CUNY Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operations Officer, Sandra Wilkin, Vice Chair of the CUNY Board of Trustees and CEO of Bradford Construction Corp., and Kevin Kim, CUNY Trustee and New York City Commissioner of Small Business Services. Welcome. Hector, as I said, according to recent news reports, Black, Hispanic, and Asian-owned businesses suffered more financial hardships during the pandemic than white-owned businesses. Do you find this surprising?
I don't. I mean, I would tell you that for me, it sort of resonates because my dad owned a small business. And I knew the struggles that he suffered as I was growing up in terms of trying to sort of go to the next level, right? I think the challenge for a small business is how do you get capital, right? And when my father was developing his business, there was during the time there was a lot of redlining going on. It was hard for a small business to get, especially a minority-owned business, to get access to capital. So it starts with that, right? So how do you get the project? Well, you need resources in order to be able to get that project. How do you get the resources? You got to have some collateral. Well, the only way you build collateral is by getting that project. So it's extremely challenging. What we're trying to do at CUNY is try to really partner with small business agency to try to see how we could help those companies get access to capital. But how do we, as a university, do our part to assure that businesses, minority-owned businesses, disabled businesses are able to take advantage of what CUNY has to offer. The work that we do has to reflect the population that we service. Our students, our faculty, and how we disperse those resources. And we're doing a lot of work in that space. Our board has made it a mandate for the university. Our chancellor has charged me with executing on that mandate, and we think that we're not completely there, but we're heading in the right direction.
And it's just part of CUNY's overall commitment to diversity.
100%.
Right.
100%.
Right. Sandra, when we talk about minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses, what kind of business are we talking about? Are they smaller? Do they tend to specialize in certain kinds of products and services? We know they have less capital, they have fewer employees. What kind of business are we talking about?
Here at CUNY, it virtually is all businesses. We have opportunities both in the construction industry, in the educational industry, in areas that whatever the procurement is required at CUNY is what we look for in terms of opportunities that are there. And to also keep in mind that 95% of all businesses in New York
are small businesses.
Are small businesses.
Right. I read that and I was amazed by that. Kevin, you deal with, what you do is deal with small businesses. And Hector talked about some of the obstacles that they face. Are there others that you want to add to that?
Well, I think when you were talking about MWBEs, minority and women-owned business enterprises, and the historical challenges they've had, I think capital access is a big part of it. And I think at SBS, one of the things we focus on with MWBE contracting is to have a program called the Contract Financing Loan Fund. We've helped loan out over $17 million to MWBEs who get contracts from government, but then as Hector pointed out, it's hard to be able to perform on contracts if you don't have the resources to get going. And so this program specifically allows MWBEs to access up to $1 million in capital at 3% from a CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution, as opposed to a traditional bank.
Yeah.
And that gets them going. And this program has been tremendously successful. But there are other barriers, of
Now,
course.
tell me, is that a city program? State?
It's a city program. So while being certified to work with CUNY, you have to be state certified. Many of our state certified firms are also city certified. And
Okay.
one of the things we're pushing up in Albany for this session is to get true reciprocity between city and state, so that if you're city certified, you can be state certified and vice versa.
You don't have to go through two processes.
Exactly.
So, Hector, this brings us to CUNY's Supplier Diversity Program. How long has this program been around?
I can recall the conference has been around for about 15 years.
Oh, okay.
I think over the last several years, we've sort of tried to take it to the next level. Just to put it into some perspective, when this administration came in, our numbers were in the 20% in terms of how support to minority-owned businesses.
I mean, 20% of your
Of our spend rate.
right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And what we've done from 2019, we've now taken 2021. We went from 30 to 35%, and then now we're in the 40% range.
Really?
Right. So, but the trick to all of it, it's not only about those percentages. Those percentages sound great. It's about how do we increase the pie, because it's not only about getting those numbers high, which are important to our board. One of the things that I try to do, and the board has been extremely supportive. For example, our investment firm that we're using has a minority component to it, right? We're now, every single area of services, we're trying to unbundle to make sure that we have representation across, not only in commodities, but in terms of services and in the construction industry, right?
Right. So, Sandra, could you describe very briefly how the program works, CUNY's diversity program?
The important key factor is that you are certified with both New York State and an opportunity that we have with New York City being small business services. In addition to that, you register at CUNY. You can go to the website to register. So we make sure that all businesses have the opportunity to do business with CUNY, and we're aware of their services, their types of businesses, and so that when the opportunities do come up in terms of procurement, they're reached out to
Right.
by the MWBE department that Hector and his team run.
So, what kinds of services and products do these businesses in your program? Give me some examples of the kinds of services and products that they offer to CUNY.
Well, for sure, one of the largest areas is because of CUNY's infrastructure. Need contractors, need mechanical, electrical, and plumbers. We have a very large program, as we were talking before, in terms of education and needing technology programs and reaching out to MWBEs and SDVOBs who have able to sell books, able to sell anything, computers, anything that CUNY requires, which is a huge, huge list of procurement opportunities that are there.
Right. Now, that's one area. Now, CUNY's construction program, something like $800 million a year.
Yes.
Do they also participate in that, or these businesses?
Yeah, and so every year, about $250 million of that 800, goes towards the construction area of CUNY. I mean, one of the things that we've been really focusing on, because our infrastructure is an aging infrastructure. I mean, 62% of our buildings are over 50 years old, and we have about 3 million square feet, 3,466 classrooms, 300 buildings. So the need is tremendous. So one of the things that we're trying to do, and we've been very lucky under this new governor, we've been able to get a lot more resources allocated to us. Governor Hochul has really provided some additional resources to us, which has really been helpful, because what we're trying to do is really focus on this whole notion of the stay at good repair. And so we're now trying to, our board has allowed us to now be able to bring in a lot more resources to be able to bring our minority-owned architect firms, construction management firms, mechanical engineering firms. So we're doing a lot more of that to be able to really, in each of the projects, to have a participation. That's just CUNY. Then we partner with DASNY, which is our construction partner. They also have a requirement on behalf of our project. So the number is about $250 million right now that's going to minority-owned businesses, which is really pretty substantial.
So Kevin, you deal with, small businesses citywide. So how do you feel about, CUNY's program and how well it's doing in terms of helping these businesses?
Well, I think CUNY has been an incredible partner over all these years. And so one of the divisions that we have at Small Business Services is entirely focused on certifying, but then not just getting businesses certified. Once they're certified, we want to help them connect to contracts. And so all year long, we hold in the communities, and then we had our signature MWBE fair over at Barclays Center last year. And CUNY is an integral partner with tabling and helping out with seminars and workshops. And so while we bring in all these MWBEs in the city to say, hey, here are the opportunities with government, don't forget CUNY, don't forget Port Authority, don't forget MTA. When we bring them all together so that MWBEs can achieve the goals that we've been talking about.
In terms of outreach to these businesses, CUNY Outreach, Sandra, CUNY just recently had a conference at John Jay Community College. Tell me about that.
It was a tremendous success. I think we had approximately 800 businesses, individuals there, and we found out also these were new businesses that haven't had the opportunity of doing business with CUNY, along with firms that continue to do business.
We have on-call contracts with CUNY, which, and we're a certified woman-owned business, which has really allowed us to get our foot in the door to get public work and expand the firm. We've grown to 50 people from two partners over the last 33 years, which is great.
This event gives me the opportunity to connect with all these schools, all these universities, all these businesses that are looking to get business from CUNY. So being hired as a photographer gives me also visibility.
Conference is an awesome tool, an awesome event to come to, far as SDVOBs searching for opportunities.
The networking was awesome, so I exchanged numbers. I've gained opportunities to work with other contractors. So we're going to network, we're going to see how my company can help their company, how my company and their company can help my company.
Specific for the CUNY program, we've been a supplier to CUNY in the furniture world for a few years. And thanks to those supplier diversity programs, we have grown, developed resources, developed capabilities, and have found mentors along the way.
Now, I understand that there are also, we talk about mentoring, that there are also programs for people who are interested in getting businesses started or in growing their businesses on several different CUNY campuses.
About 2 years ago, we launched something called CUNY Buy, about a year and a half ago. And what it does is allows all the campuses to be able to go online and be able to procure, without having to a lengthy procurement process, goods and services, commodities, right? Already within the CUNY Buy, we have already all vetted MWBE, SDBEs. We have all the different types of categories already, companies vetted in there. So each campus now has the ability to go in there to meet their goal, because we not only we have a system-wide goal, we have a campus by
has a
campus
goal.
their own goal.
Okay.
The other interesting thing that we did was we allow them only 75% of that is through CUNY Buy. 25% of it we allow the campus to do it at the local level, because we know that campuses are an economic engine for a local community. So we want to make sure that we allow them to be nimble and be able to do that at a local level and enter into what is a local food vendor or what have you, local bodega, hardware store, whatever, to allow that vibrancy to continue in that local community. And right now, it's in the early stages of that program, but we're starting to see a lot of really great success.
Okay.
Well, I've also seen, I mean, I've actually visited Queens College and LaGuardia Community College, and on campus, they have incubators. And so you have CUNY students who are starting up their own businesses. And if you look at the population of CUNY students, I would say 75% or so are considered in the MBE categories. And so when you go to LaGuardia Community College, just that space has so much energy. It's entrepreneurial. You have Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program running out of there. And so it's great that CUNY is actually growing their own entrepreneurs who are going to be the MWBs who can hopefully benefit from the CUNY program.
And in addition to that, there's the Small Business Development Corporation at many of the colleges that not only are you informed about the opportunities that are both at CUNY and for the city and at various different agencies, but also have a program to mentor, to know what it is to become a business owner,
Right.
to become that entrepreneur.
Sandra, you own a construction firm, which is unusual for a woman. I mean, probably are not a whole lot of women who own construction firms. And you've been active in helping other women business owners. Do women-owned businesses face barriers to growing their businesses that others don't, or are they pretty much the same kinds of barriers?
I think that small businesses often have the same areas of challenges, whether it's in capital, in funding, whether it is opportunities to grow your workforce, whether it's in technology. All of these areas are very, very similar for firms around the New York area,
Right.
and in fact, we can say in the country too.
Are there common mistakes that small businesses make in trying to do better?
I as a small business myself, being one of the 95%ers here, you make the challenges are always there. The risks are always there, and you need to make sure that you just continue, because it truly is, in terms of being a business in New York, the commitment has to be there. Your heart has to be there. And I always think about solutions to problems and know, when the opportunity doesn't knock, you build the door.
One thing I want to point out that both Trustee Wilkins and Trustee Kim have been championed, led by Trustee Wilkins, is this whole notion of getting more women into the engineering, the STEM area, construction area. We're working very closely with her to try to develop that at some of our colleges, because women, as you stated, women, this is a space that women traditionally don't go into, and why not, right? And we have a success story here. We have many success stories. So I think that it is something that we're going to be working as a university to try to continue under our chancellor, to try to continue to develop that and develop a program, because we think that it's a missed opportunity.
Kevin, I know it's obviously nice to help women-owned businesses, disabled veteran-owned businesses. It's obviously nice to help them grow, but why is it important? Why is it important for New York City, whatever? Why is it important?
Well, because if you take New York City, for example, and you see that you have a very high proportion of MWBEs located here, you know that almost half of all small businesses are actually immigrant owned. And you take that population and you say, if we can help them be successful, then it's not just about that family. It has a generation rippling effect as well for their children. My parents are small business owners. Their success led me to be able to be in a position to help other small business owners. The community benefits, the neighborhood benefits, city and the country, everybody benefits. So small businesses, as everybody has pointed out, make up such a powerful backbone of the economy. And if you are going to really spur the entire economy along, you have to bring the small businesses, put them in the forefront and let them lead the way, which is something that the mayor has emphasized from day one. And you know, sometimes people forget, you mentioned at the opening there were so many closings, but since the Adams administration, we've had 33,000 businesses open. 1 out of every 9 businesses that are actually open today have started since the Adams administration. And a lot of that also has to do with everything that Sandra and Hector have been talking about, mentoring, but having policies and an environment, economic environment led by government policies that say we're going to be a city of yes for small businesses.
You had talked before about the issue of small businesses raising capital.
Yes.
And I was reading that, you know, a lot of small business and minority-owned businesses, the capital comes primarily from savings or credit cards. And that can be a bit treacherous, difficult.
It can be, and we really encourage people, you know, the best source of initial capital startup is probably friends and family because they'll give you the best terms. But if not that, you can come to SBS and connect with one of the 40 CDFI partners that we have, which are the nonprofit lending institutions. You know, but to take one step back, I think one of the biggest points is kind of really emphasizing how important leadership is and representation mattering on the CUNY board level, for example. So when Hector said Sandra's been the champion of MWBE for CUNY, she really has, but it doesn't just stop there. She really was the impetus of us forming a DEI subcommittee as well that I've been a part of and she's been leading. So I think it's about changing the culture and understanding that it's not about just buying and selling, but the entire concept of DEI, why it's important, why it's so critical for our society, but for the economy as well.
Right. In terms of your bucket list of what do you want to see happen in this area, what do you want to see happen? Hector, what do you want to see happen?
You know, it was interesting. You know, I was at the conference and this woman came up to me and said, "Thank you." And I said, "What are you thanking me for?" And she said, well, let me back up. I was, Sandra is very convincing. She asked me to lead one of the workshops. And during the workshop, people were giving me credit. I mean, before they were giving me their business cards. So as I started, towards the end of the symposium, I pulled out those business cards and I started calling people up. And I said, this is the way it works. And I read a couple of names out, right? And I hand them to a vice chancellor for facility management, right? And now the idea behind that is it's about networking. You gave it to me, I'm giving it to the person who's making the decision. One of the people came up to me and said, "Thank you." And I said, "Thank you for what?" Because of this kind of effort you did a year ago. She's a mechanical engineer. She got a project on one of our community college at Hostels, and now she's doing another one of our bigger colleges, right? So it's that network and that opportunity. So that made me really feel good that we actually are making a difference, right? And creating the opportunity, and it's good to see that, right? And I think that it starts with the leadership. The board has set the tone, right? The chancellor has embraced the tone, and now I'm executing on that in terms of trying to make sure that our team understands that this is an important part of everything that we do.
You each get about a minute to say what you want viewers to take away from this program.
I think a few things. One, what Hector said, it's about the leadership. It's about the leadership. Both we have a terrific chair, Chairman Bill Thompson, and Chancellor Felix Matos Rodriguez, who sets the tone, as Hector has said, but also on a statewide level. The governor has implemented so much of the legislation that is required for CUNY to do the work that is being done, and the legislatures themselves, both on a state level, both the state senators and the assembly members. And we also connect with the city CUCF, which is the CUNY Construction Fund, which directs where the projects are. But if I was to, it's really to level the playing field.
Kevin, you get the last word.
Sure.
What do you want to say to people who are watching this?
What I'd love for people to take away is that there's never been a better time in CUNY history to be able to do business with CUNY. Come to our symposiums, get on the CUNY website, get in their list, get on all the SBS lists, because whenever we have a new program, new initiative, you want to be the first to know. A lot of the challenges with the historically underserved communities is just getting that information in the first place. So with Mayor Eric Adams directing us to go out into the community, meet people where they are, we have a extra push to get the word out for them. But we also need them to kind of come forward as well to connect with us.
Right. Well, obviously, as we said, growing these businesses is really important to the communities, to the city, to the whole economic environment of the region. And so it's excellent that you are doing this work to make that happen.
Thank you for having us.
I'm afraid we're out of time. I'd like to thank Hector Batista, CUNY Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operations Officer, Sandra Wilkin, Vice Chair of the CUNY Board of Trustees and CEO of Bradford Construction Corp., and Kevin Kim, CUNY Trustee and New York City Commissioner of Small Business Services, for joining me today. To learn more about CUNY's Supplier Diversity Program, go to cuny.edu/sell-to-CUNY. And to learn about our upcoming shows, you can follow us on Twitter at 1-to-1 CUNY TV. For the City University of New York and 1-to-1, I'm Cheryl McCarthy.